Why did nobody know she was even here? Sarah Coleman lay hidden in the mud, the cold earth breathing against her cheek. Her pulse stayed slow, controlled, even as chaos erupted below. 40 armed hostiles in perfect formation. 12 Americans trapped with no escape, and no one looking her direction. They weren't supposed to. She wasn't supposed to be here at all. 8 hours earlier she had been in the air, a simple reconnaissance insertion. No heroics, no rifle, no killbox, just a bird's-eye view and intel. Orders were clear: observe, report, return. Then the fog hit, thick as lies, rolling through the swamp like a living thing. The pilot aborted, pulling back toward base. But Sarah saw the truth hidden inside the static and interference. The SEAL team's position, their path, their likely fate. She saw what command couldn't see, and something inside her refused to stay in that aircraft. So she jumped. 15 feet through freezing air, landing on roots slick with swamp water, pain in her ribs, mud filling her palms. The helicopter never slowed. Maybe they didn't even notice she was gone, but she didn't look back. She only moved forward. Now, hours later, she watched Trident 7 fight for every breath. Commander Hayes was yelling calm on the outside, terrified on the inside. She could hear it in the pauses between orders. 3 men wounded, ammunition dropping, and the ring tightening around them like a noose. She should have radioed, waited for orders, followed the line of command she'd sworn to respect. But she wasn't here for lines. She was here because death was seconds away, and she refused to let it take good men while she still had breath. Sarah settled behind her rifle, its cold steel grounding her thoughts. Mk-13 Mod 7, a machine she trusted more than most humans she'd ever met. Suppressor attached, thermal locked, 1 breath in, hold, no tremble. Her finger tightened. A commander on the hostile side barked orders, certain of victory. Then Sarah put a bullet through his world. The jungle froze. Shock rippled outward like thunder inside silence. Hayes ducked lower behind a log, eyes wide. Who the hell fired that? Nobody answered. They couldn't. The radios were jammed, and whoever had just saved them wasn't close enough to see. Sarah didn't wait for gratitude. She didn't need it. Second shot. Machine gunner down. The swamp exhaled again, bullets stopping mid-spray, as if even the guns needed time to understand what was happening. Third shot, RPG carrier, neutralized. Every bullet brought order to chaos. And yet inside her own chest, a different war waged, one without steel or gunpowder. Are you doing this to save them, or to prove them wrong again? She shoved the doubt down, as she had 1,000 times before. Growing up in a forgotten corner of Montana, nobody expected greatness from the girl who hid on the rifle range between chores at her uncle's ranch. They expected her to follow rules, stay small, make herself disappear. Funny how disappearing had become her deadliest skill. A shot cracked, then another. 11 seconds, 6 confirmed. The swamp erupted with confusion. Enemies who moments before believed they controlled this field now scrambled like prey, unsure where the predator stood. Hayes finally spotted a direction, not a position, just a possibility: elevation, North Ridge. That's a sniper, Chen muttered, voice shaking. Extreme distance, has to be. But no one on their roster, no man in their entire community, had ever claimed shots like these under wind this chaotic. Hayes almost allowed himself to hope, but hope was dangerous. Hope got teams killed. Move to that ravine, he ordered. Whoever the hell is helping us, give them a path. Sarah saw the shift. The SEALs were retreating to better ground but still exposed. 28 enemies remained, trained, armed, and furious. They fired wildly into shadows that betrayed nothing. Her scope caught every thermal signature, each glowing silhouette another choice, another life. She squeezed the trigger again. Every impact echoed a story. This one is trying to flank. This one thinks bravery is sprinting into death. This one, This one doesn't know he's already gone. The swamp swallowed them, one by one. She had promised herself she wouldn't count kills like trophies. Not anymore. Each shot was necessity, not a victory, not a mark of pride. Yet deep inside, a barely audible voice whispered, "You are good at this, and they hate that you are." Wind screamed through the cypress branches, unpredictable, cruel. Others would wait for perfect stillness. Sarah found the beauty inside the storm. She didn't fight chaos. She became it. Then a movement she wasn't expecting. A young enemy fighter, terrified, scrambling the wrong way, not toward the seals, away from the field entirely. She let him go. Even chaos deserved mercy sometimes. The machine gun in the trees tried its next burst, but she silenced it before the barrel rose. Time a factor again. She checked her watch. 2 minutes, 43 seconds. She could save them. She would save them. But a ghost of fear gnawed at her ribs. Nobody knows where you are. Nobody will come for you if this goes wrong. Nobody will write your name. Iron Moth breathed once, just once, and let the fear sharpen her. Then she fired again. And again. For the first time in her life, she wasn't fighting to be seen. She was fighting so others would live to see tomorrow. And maybe that was the truest form of recognition. Why were they still underestimating her, even now? Sarah heard Hayes' voice over the radio, faint through static, shocked rather than confident. "One shooter, say again one." She ignored it. She wasn't here to impress anyone. Commands would only slow her down. She shifted her scope slightly. A lone hostile crept through mangrove roots, advancing toward the seal's fallback location. Sweat glimmered off his forehead, fear driven by orders, not courage. He paused to steady himself. She didn't. He dropped silently, his rifle splashing into the murky water. Breath, reset, move on. The shot count kept rising, a rhythm she could feel in her bones. 23 seconds vanished, swallowed by gunfire and the calculating silence between bullets. But she could feel the edge of something pressing against her chest, that familiar weight that never truly left. Prove it again. Prove it every single time. Wind battered her cheek from the left, hard, uneven gusts, unfair conditions, but fairness was for targets who didn't shoot back. Her lips parted, letting out the breath she'd been holding. Another trigger squeeze. Another body hitting mud. Deep inside, the question she never wanted asked whispered like a crack in her foundation. Would anyone believe she did this alone? Probably not. Her success often looked like luck to those who didn't understand. Like cheating to those who couldn't achieve what she could. She swallowed the knot in her throat as she swapped magazines, smooth motion, faster than thought. Just survive, just keep them alive. Down below, Hayes signaled his team to push toward the old bunker. Their boots splashed through swamp tides, layered mud slowing them, wounded men carried under fire, gritting teeth against agony. Gunfire ricocheted from every direction. The ring tightened again. Sarah saw it, 3 fighters hidden behind angled roots, waiting to flank the seals the moment they broke cover. No seal saw them. But she did. Leftmost fighter, elevated knee to shift weight, shot. Next, adjusting his sling, shot. Last, frozen in disbelief. A warning shot cracked into the ground at his feet. He ran. Sometimes making someone not shoot saved more lives than killing them. She whispered into the wind, barely audible even to herself. "Keep running." The swamp silence returned, but it was only temporary. Stillness before the next flood. Her body remained statue still, but her heart was not calm. What scared her wasn't death, it was failure. What if one bullet hit wrong? What if one slip of focus ended a seal's life? What if all of this wasn't enough? Then movement. Fast, wrong direction. A machine gun reactivated, not the primary gun. A secondary barrel hidden under green camo netting, angled to cut the seals down as soon as they crossed the ravine. They'd get shredded. Sarah inhaled sharply, too sharply. The world tried to rush in all at once. Stakes, lives, pressure. Don't think, shoot. She fired. Metal cracked, sparks flew. The machine gun's barrel dropped lifeless, smoke rolling upward in defeat. In the ravine below, Hayes' voice cut through urgently. Guardian Angel, whoever you are, we need a path to the objective. We're on the move in 60 seconds. She smiled barely at the code name. Guardian Angel. Not a bad title for a ghost. Her radio crackled again, Chen's disbelief back on full blast. One shooter, this can't be real. Sarah forced down the sting. She didn't have the luxury of being offended. Emotions clouded focus, and focus was the line between a funeral and a welcome home ceremony. A shadow moved near the road, two fighters dragging a portable jammer unit toward higher elevation. If they set it up, communication would go silent again. SEALs would be blind and isolated. Sarah fired twice, perfect shots. The jammer toppled. Radios cleared. Hayes' voice came stronger now. Iron Moth, this is Trident Actual acknowledging full cover. Move with us if you can. We owe you a drink after this. Sarah exhaled a small release. Respect wasn't given, but earned, yes. Even from men who didn't want to give it. She sighted in again. Wind tightened its grip around her, swirling unpredictably, clawing at her bullet's path. Any other sniper would have called it impossible. Sarah smiled again, a real one this time. Impossible was her playground. She fired. A ricochet off rock, purposeful. The shot struck the insurgent's magazine pouch, igniting a rapid chain reaction. Ammo exploded outward like angry fireworks. Two survivors fled, screaming. Hayes used the distraction. Trident, move, move, move. The SEALs sprinted from the kill box into thicker cover. A wounded man stumbled, nearly collapsing into the water. Sarah pivoted her scope instantly, checking shadows, angles, rooftops, tree hollows. No ambush waiting, no unseen barrels aimed. She whispered into the radio. Clear left, clear right, keep moving. Hayes didn't question how she knew. He just trusted now. The ravine sealed around the SEALs, buying precious seconds. Sarah's breathing slowly returned to its trained cadence, steady and methodical. She didn't allow adrenaline to celebrate. Not yet. Victory wasn't theirs, not until every enemy stopped breathing or stopped trying. She scanned the far ridge, above the bunker roofline. One hostile sniper, good camouflage, expert vantage point. The man was patient, almost too calm, waiting for the perfect shot. He would take Hayes. That was obvious from his angle. Sarah lined up for a clean headshot. But just as she prepared to fire, she caught a reflection in his scope. He was already aimed down. At her. Her chest tightened like a vice. He had found her. The first rule of a sniper duel. The first one to move is usually the first one dead. He exhaled. She exhaled. She felt him thinking. He felt her waiting. Time froze and then sprinted. A trigger squeeze. 2 bullets fired. Silence. Sarah blinked, alive. A spark showered upward from the hostile's rifle. She had shot his barrel, shattering it. His shot never left the chamber. He screamed, grabbing his ruined weapon, then vanished backward into the undergrowth, defeated, not dead. One more soul spared. One fewer to haunt her. The radio cracked again, this time Hayes, breath heavy but proud. Iron Moth, we have the package. Reeves is up. Move us to extraction. Reeves. Alive. Worth every risk. Sarah's voice stayed steady. Path southwest, 2 hostiles left, I'll handle them. 2 shots followed, quiet, clean. Hayes replied only, "Copy, thank you." Simple words, heavy with meaning. She didn't respond, because something inside her twisted. Not pain, not fear. A question. What happens when a guardian angel runs out of bullets? She checked her ammo, 2 magazines left. Plenty for now. Still, she suddenly felt the weight of her solitude. Teams had brothers beside them, ready to drag them from death's mouth. She had only silence. But silence was familiar. Silence had shaped her. Silence had made her lethal. She began packing fast, erasing her existence from the ridge. The seals were leaving. She couldn't stay. She stepped into the swamp darkness, alone again, unseen and unheard. But behind her, 12 men lived who would have died. No applause. No handshake. No certainty her actions would be believed. Only a quiet truth. Sometimes the strongest warrior in the fight is the one nobody asked to be there. How many times could she save people who would never know her name? Sarah ghosted through the swamp, mud swallowing her footsteps. She kept her rifle angled low, one slip, one splash, and every remaining fighter would know her direction. But silence was her friend. Silence kept her alive. She checked the ridge once more. The seals were already gone, their movement barely visible through the fog. Good. They were safe for now. But that relief carried a bitter edge. Would they remember her once they made it home? It wasn't ego. It was something deeper. A longing she kept buried behind every mission, every deployment, every time they trusted her trigger but questioned her presence. She forced herself to focus. Extraction was miles away, a dusty clearing near an abandoned sugar mill. Heavy foliage, tight terrain, the perfect place for an ambush. Enemies weren't done yet. They had lost men, yes, but arrogance often survived where soldiers did not. Sarah wiped grime from her cheek. Her breath misted in the damp air as she scanned ahead. Her radio crackled through static, Hayes again. Iron Moth, we're hitting the clearing in 4 minutes. Eyes needed. Not a command or request, that mattered. Sarah crouched behind a fallen palm, sighting forward. Something was wrong, too much quiet. Hostiles had vanished from thermal. No signatures, no movement. Not retreat. Relocation. She sniffed lightly, something she'd learned in survival school. Petroleum, burnt rubber, chemicals. A trap. Then she saw it, a thin fishing line stretched across the brush, tripwire, connected to a buried plate. An IED, aimed directly at the rescue team. If triggered, the blast would take out half the seals instantly. Her lips pressed into a hard line. No time to call it in. No guarantee they'd avoid it even if told. The ambush would begin the moment they hesitated. So Sarah did what she always had to do. She took the burden. She moved fast, crawling through thorns that sliced her arms. Blood mixed with swamp mud. Her rifle stayed strapped tight against her back as she reached the line. She clipped it slow, surgical, praying her gloves didn't slip. Her hands trembled slightly. Not fear. Rage. Rage that saving people always came with this price: secrecy, pain, silence. She cut the final filament. The trap went dead. One disaster avoided. But footsteps suddenly splashed behind her. She turned sharply, too slow. A rifle barrel smashed into her jaw, sending stars across her vision. A hostile soldier, young, eyes wild, screamed orders toward the trees. 3 more fighters appeared, closing in like wolves discovering a wounded deer. Sarah spat blood and memory collided at once. Boots. Barracks. Men circling her. Laughing behind approval phrases like, not built for combat. Advising her to stay where she belonged. Doubting she had what it took. Not today. The young soldier aimed at her head. His hand trembled. He didn't want to do this. She wanted to give him a chance to run. But there was no time. She rolled, tearing her knife from her belt. Steel sank into his forearm. He screamed, dropping his weapon. She kicked his knee sideways. He collapsed. The other three rushed. Close quarters, no distance advantage, no breathing time. Her ribs pulsed under a hidden bruise from the jump. Her heartbeat slammed like a war drum. Her hands found the mud, slipping once, twice. But she always recovered faster than physics expected. One fighter grabbed her throat, pressing her back into the water. Swamp filled her ears. Her pulse roared like thunder inside bone. She clawed for leverage, fingers digging into his wrist. His eyes were dead and eager. She thought just for a heartbeat that this was how she would go. Anonymous, buried in a swamp, a ghost dying like a ghost. But a spark of memory ignited, a voice from years past. Sometimes dignity doesn't speak, it simply acts. Her father, his one surviving lesson before the military, took her farther away than death ever could. A surge of fury erupted. She twisted hard, teeth gritting against pain. Her knee shot upward, smashing ribs. She reversed her knife grip and struck, fast and final. The man collapsed into silence. She gasped violently, air stabbing her lungs. Two left, closing in. She sprinted toward fallen brush, diving for her rifle, hands wrapped around metal. A single fluid motion brought the weapon to her shoulder. Crack! One hostile fell. Crack! The last one toppled before he could raise his weapon. Heavy breath, shaking hands. She wiped blood from her lips, smeared with mud, until she looked more creature than human. She didn't celebrate. She didn't have that luxury. She checked the time. The SEALs were seconds from the kill zone. She lined up her scope, sweeping the clearing entrance. And there they were, 4 hostiles lying prone behind boulders. RPG launcher braced and aimed directly at Hayes' position. She fired 3 rapid shots, 2 heads, 1 launcher. Gunfire erupted in chaos. More fighters spilled from hidden tunnels, 10, maybe more, surrounding the landing zone like a waiting mouth. Sarah spoke through clenched teeth. Trident, break left and keep moving. Do not stop. Hayes didn't hesitate. His voice roared. Trident Geo. His men sprinted through the clearing as gunfire tore into the trees behind them. Sarah focused, but doubt flickered again. They trust her now. What if she fails them? Breath. Exhale. Keep going. She picked targets with ruthless efficiency. Anyone who aimed at the SEALs dropped immediately. But then, a scream on the radio, Reeves. Man down, Reeves is hit. Sarah scanned frantically. There, a sniper, half hidden near the mill's upper tower. Distance too far, angle too narrow, and the wind. She fired. The bullet clipped the window. Too far right. Second shot, she'd have to lead the wind farther, push harder. Hayes yelled into comms. He's locking on Reeves, we're exposed. Sarah recalculated in less than a second, remembering every bad memory that made her sharper. Every dismissal. Every smirk. Every barrier. She fired. A beat of silence. The hostile sniper's rifle dropped first, then his body. Reeves breathed again. Sarah allowed herself a single moment, a single quiet inhale of relief. Then the radio. Iron Moth, whoever you are, thank you. Thank you. 2 simple words. They landed heavier than any bullet. She swallowed emotions she didn't have time to feel. But something changed then. Not in their situation, danger remained everywhere, but in how she carried the weight. She was no longer a secret mistake dropped from a helicopter. She was the reason 12 men were still alive enough to feel pain, fear, and hope. The sounds of rotors began to grow in the distance, extraction inbound. Sarah's entire body trembled, adrenaline washing into exhaustion. She whispered into the wind, "Not done, not yet." Because the thing no one understood about her was this: she never fought to win. She fought so others didn't lose. And somewhere between those two truths, she had forgotten how to fight for herself. Why did survival always feel like a punishment she couldn't refuse? Rotor blades thumped closer, a ghostly heartbeat across the trees. The extraction bird pierced through fog, searchlights spearing into the clearing. The seals signaled urgently, waving smoke that spiraled up like a cry for deliverance. Sarah stayed hidden above the chaos, breath tight in her chest. She scanned every shadow, every roof, every patch of grass that moved in ways nature didn't intend. No shot fired would go unnoticed now, and the hostiles, the smart ones, knew time was against them. That's when she spotted movement near the well, a figure kneeling, connecting wires. A dead man's switch. If triggered, the entire clearing would detonate. Men, bird, mission done. She whispered into her mic. Hayes stopped the bird, IED under the clearing. But the rotor wash drowned the transmission. The helicopter continued downward, dangerously low. Sarah felt her pulse hammer. There was no clean line of fire. The bomber was shielded behind concrete. She shifted fast, mud sliding under her boots as she scrambled to gain a higher angle. The ridge was steep, roots slick. Twice she nearly slipped. A fall here meant death and not her own alone. Every second was a countdown. Hayes managed to hear fragments of her call. He looked around wildly, then spotted the bomber. At the same moment, Sarah steadied her rifle. The bomber's thumb hovered over a button. Sarah fired. Bullet impact, silence. Hayes looked up toward the ridge. His eyes didn't find her, but they searched like he wanted to. The helicopter lifted slightly, pilots aware now something wasn't right. The seals dragged Reeves toward the bird. Their boots carved chaotic tracks in the mud. Sarah exhaled, a trembling, reluctant victory. But the universe rarely allowed heroes to breathe. A mortar shell screamed from the tree line and detonated near the tail rotor. Flames licked the helicopter's skin, engines coughing in a stutter of panic. The aircraft wasn't going to leave. Hayes cursed loud enough the mic spiked. Birds hit, we're staying on foot. Sarah's scope snapped to the origin, a tall figure reloading the mortar with terrifying calm. He stood like a reaper accepting his duty. She fired, missed by an inch. Her angle was collapsing. She dove sideways as bullets rang out, the hostiles finally triangulating her position. Bark shredded off the tree, protecting her back. For the first time tonight, Sarah faced what she had tried to forget. She wasn't invisible anymore. She was the primary target. And beneath her grit, beneath every practiced breath, fear began to coil. Not fear of dying. Fear of failing. She needed to relocate, regain her advantage, but her ribs screamed when she moved. The earlier strike had left damage deeper than she admitted. She ducked behind thicker brush, blood smearing her shirt. The radio cut again, Hayes' voice full of urgency and something else. Concern. Iron Moth, we're pinned, talk to us. Her vision blurred for half a heartbeat. She blinked, focus sharpened. She responded low and steady. I'm here. 3 words. Not enough to explain that she wasn't okay, and wouldn't be okay until they were out. She positioned herself again, closer now. Shots rang precise, relentless. One target at a time. One more heartbeat earned for her team. Hayes counterattacked, his men finding courage in the unseen guardian above. Sarah's rifle clicked dry. She swapped magazines, teeth gritted through fresh pain knifing her side. A new hostile appeared on the tower balcony, launching a signal flare. Red smoke poured into the sky. Reinforcements inbound. Time collapsing. Then a quiet question whispered through her mind. Who rescues the rescuer? No answer, not yet. She fired again, tower cleared. But her scope drifted and she saw him, the wounded boy from earlier, the one she spared. Now he held an AK, pointed not at her but at Hayes. He hesitated, trembling, but duty pushed him toward murder. Sarah's breath caught. Mercy had consequences. Her finger froze. The world narrowed to a single painfully human moment. She didn't want to kill him. Not him. Not someone who had chosen life over violence once already. But if she did, Hayes would fall. And the entire mission with him. Her heart fractured, but her decision was steel. She fired. The boy collapsed into the mud, eyes closing like they'd never fully opened. A quiet sob escaped her throat, rage and sorrow merging into a poison she'd carry forever. Sometimes mercy required a second chance. Sometimes it cost you both. The radio cracked violently, Hayes again. Iron Moth extraction point is compromised. We're rerouting west toward the river. Can you move? Her gaze lingered on the boy's still body, her bullet marking the end of an innocent war in the wrong uniform. Her answer was barely a whisper. Yes. She forced her legs beneath her, willing numb muscles to obey. She wasn't done. She didn't get to stop. Not yet. She climbed downward, fast but careful, rifle hugged tight. Every root, every dip in the ground threatened to break her speed. Bullets snapped past her shoulder, hunters chasing the ghost that had stolen their night. Her head throbbed, her ribs felt wrong, her breath wavered like a candle in wind. But she kept moving. Because they needed her. The seals reached the riverbank, panting, bloodied, drained. Reeves stumbled again, almost falling into the current. Chen looked up, voice shaking. Guardian Angel, thank you. They didn't know her real name. They didn't need to. But hearing gratitude from the very people programmed to doubt her, it dug deeper than any knife. She positioned herself on a secondary ridge, barely enough cover, but it gave her a view of the crossing. Down below, men waded into murky water, icy, violent, unforgiving. One slip, one cramp, and the river would take them faster than any bullet. Sarah's voice guided them. 2 hostiles approaching from your right, 10 o'clock. Take cover behind the fallen trunk. Shots from the seals rang out, synchronized with her warning, and the hostiles fell instantly. Hayes paused, looking toward her ridge. He couldn't see her, but he knew she was still there. His voice came low, respect cutting through static. You're saving lives you don't even know. That takes a different kind of courage. She didn't respond. Words were heavier than bullets right now. One last scan, then she spotted the final threat. A sniper perched high, hidden in vines, perfect angle on the river. If he fired, Reeves would be the first to die. Then the current would carry him into darkness. Sarah steadied her sights, but the wind shifted again, swirling leaves like tiny shields. Doubt clawed into her ribs. One wrong shot, and the river collects its debt. Her heartbeat synced with her breath, slow, sharp, unbreaking. She fired. The distant body crumpled like a leaf, losing its fight against gravity. It was done. Trident 7 crossed the river. Safe. Sarah collapsed onto one knee, exhaustion claiming every nerve. The radio stayed quiet for a long moment, then Hayes said, You did it. We wouldn't be here without you. She wanted to answer, but she couldn't. Not because she was too injured. Not because she was overwhelmed. But because she wondered whether this would ever be enough. Whether saving lives in silence was worth dying alone. And a colder question still. How much more could her heart take before it broke completely? The night swallowed her doubts. She wiped tears that looked like rain. Then she stood. because tomorrow was already on its way. Why did every victory feel like a debt she could never finish paying? Sarah forced her legs to move, though every muscle screamed rebellion. The river's mist clung to her like cold fingers, stealing heat she didn't have to spare. Her ribs throbbed harder now, each breath a needle. She touched beneath her vest, warmth, blood, more than she wanted to admit. She didn't have time to be wounded. Hayes and his team pushed deeper into jungle darkness, headed toward a secondary rendezvous point nearly 5 kilometers west. A coastline extraction, risky, exposed, unpredictable. Sarah followed parallel on higher ground, invisible escort to men who didn't know the whole truth about her. She wasn't part of their op. She wasn't supposed to be anywhere near this mission. If command found out she disobeyed orders, jumped from that helicopter, engaged without authorization, it wouldn't matter what she saved. She would be the one destroyed. Not by bullets, but by paperwork, politics, punishment. They'd court-martial her for heroism. The thought should have frightened her. Instead, her lips curved into a tired, fearless grin. Let them try. Wind shifted, carrying voices ahead. Not seals, thicker accents, aggressive tones, footsteps breaking branches. An enemy squad, heading toward the river crossing she'd just secured. They were too late to catch the seals, but they'd encounter her first. She dropped to a knee, scope up, controlled breath. 6 target, close, dangerous, searching. Not worth a firefight. Not now. She waited, letting them pass below. But then her heel slid slightly on damp bark. Just a whisper of sound, but enough for one fighter to turn with suspicion sharpening his eyes. He raised his weapon. She fired once. The forest erupted. She rolled behind a rotting log as bullets tore bark into clouds. The world spun. Gunfire thundered so loud her heartbeat struggled to find a rhythm. 6 against 1 was math even miracles hated. Her options dwindled fast. She bolted into a sprint, weaving through foliage as bullets snapped against trunks behind her. Pain lanced through her ribs, nearly sending her crashing into roots. Come on, Sarah, one more step, one more breath. She slid into a ditch shallow, but enough to catch her breath. The squad moved fast, spreading like claws searching for a throat. She checked her ammo, 1 full mag, 1 nearly empty. Not a fair fight. But she hadn't been fighting fair since the moment she jumped out of that helicopter. 1 soldier crept too close, muzzle searching the ditch. She waited, and when his foot hesitated at the edge, her knife flashed. He dropped without a sound. She dragged his body into the ditch, taking his spare magazines. Her fingers trembled too much to celebrate the gain. Footsteps closed in. Sarah closed her eyes for half a heartbeat. You don't get to quit here. Not after everything you've already carried. Her father's voice again, echoing across years and miles. Then she burst upward, rifle roaring. 1, 2, 3. The 4th returned fire, catching her shoulder with searing heat. She screamed, rage swallowed by adrenaline. 5 down. Only 1 remained, and he wasn't firing. He was running. Toward the coastline. Toward the seals. Sarah inhaled, sharp and painful, then sprinted after him. Her shoulders screamed with each step. Her feet betrayed how close she was to collapsing, but stopping wasn't an option. She tracked him through broken vines and footprints in wet soil. Up ahead the forest thinned, the faint crash of waves, moonlight on open sand. She saw him aiming down toward the seal's altitude marker beacon. He steadied his rifle, perfect shot lined up. Sarah skidded to a stop, exhaling fire. Her shot cracked the night. The hostile's body slumped forward into water that washed away the blood, as if trying to erase the violence of the moment. Silence fell. Too quiet. Too final. Her knees buckled, slamming into wet earth. Pain ripped through her lungs. Her vision trembled around the edges, black creeping inward like a closing door. She forced her breathing slower, deeper. Not yet. Not tonight. She placed a hand on the ground, grounding herself to the earth that tried to swallow her. Moonlight reflected off the water, shimmering like a path to somewhere gentler, somewhere peaceful. The seals hadn't noticed the danger resolved above them, not yet. They were too busy securing the coastline, waiting for their rescue. They fought to live another day. Because of her. The radio cracked haze, breathless. Iron Moth report. We have eyes on the Horizon team inbound. She tried to answer, her lips parted. But her throat seized. Words died in her lungs. She pressed the mic again, forcing sound through pain. Clear, your path is clear. Hayes paused, the weight of his silence electrifying the line. You're hurt. Not a question, a realization. She gave no answer. Truth was heavier than bullets. Hayes spoke again, firmer. Give us your coordinates, we'll come get you. Panic jolted her sharper than gunfire. No. That one word tore from her like a confession. She tried to breathe through the fear that crawled up her spine. If they found her injured, unauthorized, disobedient, command would bury her career. Bury her, and they would blame Hayes' report for it. She wasn't going to let her rescue destroy the people she saved. She steadied her voice. I'm just a shadow tonight. Get your men home. Hayes cursed under his breath, helpless frustration charging his words. You didn't just save us, you carried us. Let us return the favor, soldier. She closed her eyes, a pulse of emotion crushing her chest. I already have everything I came for. A lie. A beautiful, necessary lie. She watched as the rescue bird emerged over the horizon, floodlights sweeping waves into liquid diamonds. The seals signaled. Ropes dropped. They were going home. Sarah leaned against a mangrove trunk, strength finally unraveling. Her vision blurred harder, a storm of blackness trying to end her night prematurely. In the distance, Hayes glanced back toward the ridge line one last time, searching the darkness like he could somehow find the person he only knew by myth. She saluted him. He couldn't see it, but she needed to do it anyway. Because honoring them mattered more than them honoring her. The helicopter rose into the star-flecked sky, carrying heroes she would never meet properly. Sarah's body eased toward the earth, exhaustion becoming gravity. Her thoughts flickered. They live. I live. For now, that's enough. She lay on her back, staring up at a sky that didn't know her name, and smiled through blood and tears. She had given the world everything she had left. And the world still didn't know she existed. Why did she always wake up in places where the stars felt too far away to touch? Cold ground pressed against Sarah's back. The night had shifted quieter now, like the war had ended and no one had bothered to tell her. She blinked pain from her eyes, the world coming back in broken fragments. Her ribs burned, her shoulder throbbed, her hands trembled with the echo of every trigger pull, and somewhere under all that, a softness, a recognition. She survived. But survival wasn't a comfort, not for her. She rolled to her side, pushing herself upright with a grimace. The coastline stretched silent before her, only the whisper of waves and distant drone of the helicopter fatting toward the horizon. The seals were gone. Safe. Because of her. But now she was alone again. She tried to breathe deep, but breath betrayed her, slicing through cracked ribs like a blade. She pressed a palm against her vest, feeling warmth spreading beneath. Blood. She bit back a curse. Every step toward home would be agony. Every inch a reminder that heroes without witnesses often bled quietly. She whispered into the night, "Just a little farther." But her legs quivered, unsure if they agreed with the promise her lips tried to shape. She stumbled, catching herself against a palm trunk. Her vision tunneled, edges softening like she might drift into sleep. Dangerous sleep. Not the kind you wake from. She slid down the trunk, kneeling, breathing, thinking. Her mind drifted back to training, instructors barking about victory, medals, honor. All the bright words painted on recruitment posters. They never mentioned this part. The silence after sacrifice. The loneliness after loyalty. The heartbreak after doing everything right. A lonely tear split the dirt on her cheek. She didn't cry from pain. Pain was familiar. She cried because nobody saw her do the impossible tonight. Nobody except the dead who would never speak of it. She clenched her jaw, refusing to let the emotion weaken her. She pressed fingers to the radio. Static hummed. "Command, this is Coleman," she managed, voice sandpaper rough. "Mission incomplete." Lie. She completed everything that mattered. She saved every soul she could. The radio hissed, then a voice, metallic, impatient. "Coleman, status. Why are you not aboard your transport?" Of course, no concern, just confusion, procedure. She thought of telling them everything. She thought of shouting what she did. She thought of asking why she was always the one doubted first. Instead, she said, "Diverted, hostile engagement, extraction missed. I'm making my way back." A pause. Then, "Hold position. We're sending coordinates." "Hold position. Wait for rescue. Do nothing." She almost laughed. Doing nothing had never been an option for her. She dragged herself to her feet again, every muscle shaking with betrayal. The ocean breeze chilled blood against her skin. She limped forward, one painful step at a time. As the adrenaline faded, memories rose up to replace it. Her father teaching her to shoot tin cans off fence posts, telling her she had the steadiest hands he'd ever seen. Boot camp instructors studying her with disbelief whenever she outperformed the class. Commanders praising her accuracy, then passing her over for missions because a woman might compromise unit dynamics. All the time she had to be twice as good to be seen, half as capable. But tonight she was undeniable. 12 men would go home because Sarah Coleman refused to let the world tell her who she was. She reached the tree line, spotting a patch of sand undisturbed by violence. Moonlight shimmered off shallow pools like a promise of calm she didn't feel. Her radio crackled. "Coleman, flare up, we need visual." She unclipped a red flare, raising it with trembling arms. A spark, a hiss. It ignited. A pillar of crimson fire carved through darkness. Then she collapsed beside it, too drained to care about posture or pride. She could hear distant rotor blades returning for her, coming closer. For the first time tonight, she allowed herself to breathe like someone who might live to see morning. But fear still lingered, because surviving the battlefield wasn't her hardest fight. Surviving judgment was. Boots hit sand near her, voices yelling. "She's here, medic, now." Hands lifted her shoulders. A flashlight cut across her face, she winced. A corpsman's voice softened. "You're okay, you're safe." Safe. She didn't remember the last time she felt that word. They carried her toward the chopper. Hayes emerged from the interior, bandaged but standing. His eyes locked onto her, stunned recognition filling his features. Their gazes met, two soldiers who had shared a war without ever speaking a word. He knelt, gripping her uninjured hand. "You walked through hell for us," he said quietly. "Let us take you out of it." She tried to answer, to make a joke, brush it off, downplay the impossible. But her voice broke into a whisper, more honest than she intended. "I couldn't let you die." Hayes nodded, a silent oath passing between them. He leaned closer, eyes fierce with conviction. There's a place in every great story for the one nobody sees coming. She blinked, tears threatening again. Not because she hurt, because she finally felt seen. The helicopter lifted them skyward. The coastline shrank below, the battlefield fading behind black water and memory. Sarah's breath steadied, her heartbeat slowed, her body surrendered to exhaustion knowing she was finally off duty. Hayes looked at her, gratitude shaping his every word. "Who are you really?" Sarah's eyes fluttered, heavy, drifting. She smiled faintly. "No one special." Then darkness claimed her, soft, peaceful, forgiving. When she woke again, in a hospital far from war's teeth, she would still be that unsung guardian. Still, the reason futures existed that almost didn't. She didn't fight for applause. She didn't fight for headlines. She didn't fight for rank or medals. She fought because life, every fragile, beautiful heartbeat of it, deserved protection. Even when sacrifice was silent. Even when nobody witnessed it. Especially then. Because sometimes dignity doesn't speak. It simply acts. And Sarah Coleman, Iron Moth, would always act. Whether the world saw her or not. Whether anyone said her name. Some warriors don't wear glory. They wear silence. And they save us anyway.